Hi, so today we are going to be learning about abdominal ultrasounds by me, Cassie Kartsenis. Abdominal machines conduct sound waves through transducer probes. The waves travel from the probe to the body, bounce off body tissues and structures, and then reflect back to the probe. The 4C transducer is used on abdominal ultrasounds because it has a low frequency, which means greater depth and lower resolution. Also, the head of the probe covers a larger surface area to examine the abdomen. Some ultrasound accessories are ultrasound gel, a pillow, blanket, and dry paper towels to wipe off the probe and patient as needed. The different levels are called echogenicity, which is the tissue's ability to produce an echo. Ultrasound imaging applies a grayscale system ranging from white to black with different shades of gray in between. The first type of tissue we are going to talk about is hyperechoic tissue. Hyperechoic tissue produces a lot of echoes. They appear white in grayscale. Connective tissue, ligaments, and tendons are all examples of this type of tissue. During abdominal ultrasound, we would expect to see hyperechoic tissue surrounding the gallbladder and the liver. Hyperechoic tissue, in my opinion, is the easiest to see because of its white color. As seen in the image here, the blue arrow is pointing to hyperechoic tissue. Another tissue we are going to talk about is anechoic tissue. Anechoic tissue produces no echoes. The anechoic structures appear black in grayscale. Some structures that appear black on an ultrasound are the heart, blood vessels, gallbladder, and any area that would appear in the lungs or digestive system. When performing an abdominal ultrasound, I would expect to find anechoic tissue and fluid-filled structures such as the gallbladder and blood vessels. The blue arrow is pointing to the gallbladder. Next, we are going to cover isoechoic tissue. Isoechoic tissues are homogeneous, and I believe they are the most difficult to see because they tend to blend in. Isoechoic structures appear light gray and grayscale. When performing an abdominal ultrasound, I would expect the liver to be isoechoic. You can examine the light gray tissue because of the surrounding hyperechoic tissue that appears white. As seen in this image, the blue arrow is pointing to the liver. The last tissue we will cover is hypoechoic tissue. Hypoechoic tissue produces very few echoes. Hypoechoic structures appear dark gray and grayscale because the organs are very dense. When performing an ultrasound on the abdomen, I would expect the kidneys to appear dark gray. The amount of fluid present in the kidneys is not enough for the tissue to appear black. These two images are examples of hypoechoic tissue. Now we have the questions, what does the gallbladder look like, and how does the echogenicity of the gallbladder relate to its function? The gallbladder looks like a peanut-shaped structure that was black. When the transducer was rotated 90 degrees, the gallbladder became smaller and more circular. The gallbladder is an anechoic sac that stores bile. The gallbladder relates to its function when it is empty. The echogenicity is black because there are no echoes produced in return. What does the kidney look like, and how does the function and structure of the kidney relate to its appearance on the ultrasound? The renal pyramids are triangular in shape and appear darker than the renal cortex. The renal pelvis will appear white and produce lots of echoes within the kidney. When the probe is rotated 90 degrees to obtain a transverse axis view, the kidney looks like a circular structure with a horseshoe shape at the level of the renal pelvis. The structures in the kidney are set up to filter blood into urine. The amount of liquid filled in the kidneys during an ultrasound is not enough to make it appear black. Therefore, that's why they are dark gray. What do you observe about the inside of the liver during an ultrasound? I observed that the liver appeared light gray because it is a very dense organ. I expected the liver to be more visible compared to other structures because it has a very important function. It was unexpected that the ultrasound was able to see in greater detail, such as seeing right and left lobes and blood vessels. Yes, you can expect to see blood vessels on an ultrasound. On an abdominal ultrasound, the inferior vena cava and aorta would be seen close to the kidneys. You would also be able to see the renal arteries that lead to each kidney, and lastly, the hepatic portal vein leads to the liver. As seen in this ultrasound image, letter A is the liver, letter B is pointing to the kidney, and letter C is pointing to the gallbladder. A memory tool I came up with is Haley will have Danny glowing. I came up with this saying because I always have trouble remembering what color tissue hyperechoic and hypoechoic are. They have very similar spelling and can be easily confused. I have a friend named Haley and Danny, so this is what came to mind, and I keep repeating this in my head. Hyperechoic white, hypoechoic dark gray.